Hi, I'm Chris from Airwindows, and hey, you can do this. This is Airwindows DubPlate2. So here's the deal. The original DubPlate was a good solid try for what I was doing. I took what was essentially a CD quality track that I was given for reference purposes and made a faceless no control plugin for turning it into what the actual DubPlate was that was made from it. There's a catch. That DubPlate wasn't made from the track that I was working from. It was made from a different track, not the actual CD release or the electronic release, but something that was given to the DubPlate house. And I was told, yeah, the guy at the DubPlate house said that he had to sit on the treble really hard. He had to turn it way down. And so what we have here is Airwindows DubPlate2, and we've got some controls built into it now to more or less replicate what that DubPlate house had. Not in any really specific way, but the idea is to be able to do the basic processing that you might need to do if you're being given weird audio from somewhere. And in fact, I got a hold of the literal audio that was given to the DubPlate house. And that's when I knew I had to do this version, because it no longer bore any resemblance to what I had done previously. So I designed a new version of my Baxendall plugin, which you will also get in time, and built it in to the same processing in the original DubPlate so that I could kind of cover for some of the things that were happening. And so here we are. This is DubPlate being bypassed. Now, if you engage it, it doesn't make as big of a change. Listen. See, it's taken some of the bass out. It's made the bass more mono. It's taken some of the highs down. And in fact, one of the things that it does is it has boosted the levels a tiny bit. And that's because of the filtering happening. If you filter low frequencies, you can sort of phase rearrange them, and it can cause the peaks to go higher. So this one has the input built right in. And that's also useful because the Baxendall 3 has the same processing in the original Baxendall. It's a slightly rearranged version of an older version of Console. It is also the filter is multiple biquad filters run interleaved, and that's something that I've continued for Baxendall 3, and that exists here. And end result is you can have it at full volume or pretty nearly full volume. If you're clipping, say you have your input and it's a strong, loud sound with bass frequencies, maybe you want to pad it down a little bit if you're going to act like you're going to an actual DubPlate. And then let's say that the high frequencies are too much. Well, not anymore, they're not. This is what I used to take the literal master that went to the DubPlate, and I'm not showing it to you now because I don't have permission to play back that actual track, but I was able to get it pretty much dead on from what the real source was for that DubPlate. And it was all using the new treble control built in. Not only that, see how we don't have enough bass? Well, now you can have all the bass you like. To a point, because it's still cutting off a little tiny bit, and it's still mono bass more than it is stereo bass. So it's a DubPlate style thing, but what you hear here, and I'll fool with it until it is, see? We can push pretty hard with the base on this one, or pull it back. By the same token, you could do a sort of smiley EQ thing here and pad it with input. And this is reinventing the sound in a pretty challenging way, although this is not necessarily what you would use as a, if you were cutting stuff to a DubPlate. This is probably too bright and aggressive. So what you would do if you were doing this for serious, seeing it as no longer a faceless, controlless, one-stop shop for DubPlate style sounds, if you want to make it accurate, if you want it to act like an actual DubPlate would, rather than just playing games and then cranking stuff through it and maybe distorting it all to hell or whatever, try this. Run this into Airwindows meter. And the pattern that you get for DubPlates tends to be in the lower section of Airwindows meter, the zero cross meter. Your information is going to go down to about 40 Hertz and up to about, I believe it's about 1K or so. Those are two lines. Your audio should be filling a space within those lines. There's a slew meter also in Airwindows meter, and that goes from DubPlate2's processing, much like the original DubPlates, has slew restrictions built into it, like the acceleration limiters in final mastering. But they're not quite as heavy-handed as in the original DubPlate, so you're expected to be able to pull back treble and have that take part of the weight for balancing the tone. So what you're going to do to get that style of sound is just keep an eye on Airwindows meter or anything else that'll show you like relevant amounts of high frequencies. And the slew meter should not have too many nasty red spikes of too much overslew in there. That's terminology that I use for describing what Airwindows meter does. And that's basically how that rolls. Like, if you use Airwindows meter to dial in the balance of high frequencies and low frequencies and how much bass you've got, and then also pull back the gain so you're not distorting everything, you're probably going to end up with a meter performance that's not necessarily, a high score, but is going to be a lot of those blue peaks that you get when things are balanced well. And that's basically the idea. I'm putting this out in something of haste because I was asked to. I was doing live streams where I was designing new ways of producing my reverbs. I have new software that I'm working on. In fact, I was up early this morning working on it. I have 10 instances of the software running right over here where my screen is. And maybe I'll sneak in the middle of the night and show you, because these are the things that I run literally overnight for days on end to try to grind out new reverb impulses. And it's not impulses so much as it is I'm coming up with householder matrices that use particular delay times to combine together. And I think it's possible to sort of go for ever higher performance householder matrices. When you started that kind of thing with, say, Freeverb, which is a 4x4 householder matrix, if I remember correctly, that was just experimenting around and finding stuff that was basically good. But it should be possible to generate these things randomly, which is not the same thing as using generative AI for them, because that gives you stuff that already exists and pastes stuff together out of code that already exists. But what I'm doing is generating random combinations of delay times, which could be completely unreasonable. said on Blue Sky, it is a woke reverb because it's very diverse. It includes all the things whether you think they'll work or not. But that's exactly the point, because that has the capacity for stumbling across some kind of outlandish, amazing combination of delay times that maybe shouldn't even work, but produce the coolest sounding delay ever, the coolest sounding reverb ever. And that's the hope here. That's what I'm trying to make happen. So I've got the computer grinding away. It's capable. One instance of my program used to, I could probably do, I don't know, 10,000 examples of this, 40,000 examples of this run overnight. And that's how I've gotten all of the reverb impulses I use so far. New one will do 1 million an hour each. So when I run 10 at the same time, that's 10 million an hour. And then if I run that overnight, I've got some options as it grinds away trying to find the best possible thing that it can find. With a bit of luck, this is going to produce some really cool things, and I can't wait to jump in and start putting out more reverbs. One of the things I'd like to do is do 4x4 matrices, because that's relatively normal. Like, people are fairly used to turning to 4x4 householder matrices for reverbs, and you can do nice things with them, like make infinite reverb out of them. I'd like to put out something that's a lot like Clearcoat, except for it's a range of small to big reverbs, and then put out the reverb constants, the exact delay times that you use, as public domain, so that anybody who wants to build cool reverbs can do them and do them all they want. Meanwhile, I will still be generating 10 million more reverb impulses an hour trying to find even better ones. But then that's just how I roll. And I hope you enjoyed DubPlate2. I've got a lot of more stuff coming, and wish me luck. Talk to you later. Bye-bye. So, we can sneak up on my processing in the middle of the night. There it is. 10 versions of the new reverb algorithm generator running away at full crank. Each one will do 1 million options an hour. 10 of them running in parallel will do 10 million options an hour. Each time trying to compare it against all the previous options to see whether it can come up with a reverb algorithm that is the best reverb algorithm in the world.